Hey, it's your old pal Slim, and this is 70 Millimeter, a podcast for film lovers. Every Monday, I'm joined by famous artist Danny Haas.
I don't know how anyone's reviews have yet to mention how absolutely horrible Florence Pugh's Russian accent is.
And spiritual advisor, Proto Lexus.
IYKYK, is it the greatest? That's an open question, but because I'm asking it, I think you know the answer.
And together as friends forever, we discuss recently watched movies. Later in this very episode, we're talking about a film that has been called a historic achievement in Japanese cinema. It's The Human Condition Part 1, No Greater Love. Is the hype real? We'll find out together. Pardo, we usually have a journey that you set forth for us in the VHS Village Discord, where you set a theme or a director or a thing, and once a month we all watch a movie and chat with it in a special channel. This is your brainchild.
Yes.
This journey. What were some previous journeys that we've done in the past?
Well, the first journey, which we started because of our dear producer, Dale, he inspired me. He was going through the whole Alien franchise. And I remembered, I hadn't seen two of them. And I was like, this seems like a great idea. Mm-hmm. So that was really the impetus for the journey. We did that one, which was huge success. Love the Alien journey. Yeah. And then we said, when that was done, it was like, why don't we just keep doing these? Because there's a lot of movies out there. I don't know if people know this, but there is a lot of movies to watch. So the next we did, the Lean journey, David Lean, because I hadn't seen any David Lean pictures. So I wanted to watch some. And we did, I think it was 5 of those, which we ended with Lawrence of Arabia a few weeks ago. Not as popular of a journey. That's okay, because, it's the material's a little harder to get into. His 3.5, 4 hour movie run
4 hour
times.
minimum in that journey.
Minimum. So now it's time to start another one. So we finished the Lean journey in this month of July, but I was so excited for this next journey that I said, let's not even wait till August. Let's start it now in July.
Oh my gosh.
And things just started coming together. And I'm just gonna say what it is. We're doing a noir journey for the rest of the year. Then, thank you, Kev. Yeah, noir.
Can we trademark
I'm
that?
horny right now.
Dale, if you're in the studio, can you call legal? Get on that?
Yeah, a noir journey. And not just, we're going to do something a little different here because I think, there's a lot of classic noir out there that is really great. That I'm excited to watch, but maybe old movies aren't your bag. So maybe you want to watch some newer stuff. And I saw recently that on the Criterion put together a really cool neo-noir list of movies. So what we're going to do this time, it's going to be a choose your own noir journey where each month between July and December, there's going to be 2 movies on the list. It's going to be a classic noir movie as well as a neo noir movie. So you can watch one or you can watch both, whatever floats your boat. But just to get an idea, for the month of July, we're going to start with Double Indemnity, which is I think it's Billy Wilder, which in this movie is like on the noir list as like the number 1 noir movie, which I think you've seen, Slim, right? One of the horniest
movies of this era that I can remember seeing. The emotions between those 2 leads, unreal. Loved it.
That gets me excited. And if that's not your thing, the movie that's paired with that is going to be Body Heat.
Oh my God.
Which is a Lawrence Kasdan picture from 1981. We also got another movie I've been dying to see is The Killing, Stanley Kubrick.
This is unbelievable.
Ever heard of him? This is one of his early movies. So and then we got I squeezed in some Bong Joon-ho on this list. What else? We got The Maltese Falcon. There's some Brian De Palma on this list.
My king.
I mean, it's got everything. So I am like, I watched Sunset Boulevard last week and I was just ready. I need more noir in my life. And I think everyone else does too. So this is where we're going. I think it's going to be a lot of fun too, where you just can, more than one movie to pick between.
Wow. We'll have a link in the episode notes to that list that you've created to join us. And if you want to join us on the journey, what would you say? Choose your own journey, but you miss an opportunity to choose your own noir venture.
Noirny, yeah.
We'll work with shop that.
Noirnia.
Slim producer, just change out my words.
We'll work on that in post. But if you want to join us on this journey in Discord, we have a channel called Journeys, where everyone can chat about the movies that they're watching. You can join that at patreon.com/70mm. We'll have a link on our website and in the episode notes. And we have some new friends this week that will be joining us on this journey. Sander, Paul, and Brandon joined this week. And Mackenzie is in chat tonight. I wanted to call it. Mackenzie left us a very nice Apple Podcast review. And she is launching a new podcast August 1st called On Lynch. Now, I know for a fact that there are some quote unquote Lynch heads, in the village. I just air quoted that. I'm not sure if it was necessary. But if you are a Lynch fan, Twin Peaks, I'll have a link to that podcast. By all means, check it out August 1st when it comes out. I'm excited. Those movies are unreal. That was on that list. I hope people are aware of that.
I might watch them all.
And there's a ton more. Like that Criterion list, I wanted to watch all of them. There's like 20 movies on there, and they all sound amazing.
Speaking of the Criterion, this episode, we're going to be talking about the big one. The Human Condition, Part 1, No Greater Love. 3.5 hours. It's on the Criterion app right now. Considered to be the greatest achievement in the history of Japanese cinema. And we watched it, and we're going to talk about it at the bottom of the hour. Stay tuned. Danny's got a ass-eating grin on his face right now.
No, I'm excited.
Danny, what did you watch this week? Anything good?
I did watch a couple things. Casey and I watched a big one this week. Have you heard of this director, Ingmar Bergman?
I've heard tell.
We watched The Seventh Seal and Max von Sydow. It was really good. I found it really interesting. It was it's incredibly filmed. Black and white, looks incredible. Cinematography is nuts. And it was actually had a lot more like comedy bits than I was prepared for, because it seemed like it was going to be such a serious movie. And it does have very serious, existential type questions that Max von Sydow's character is going through. He's playing chess with death throughout this whole movie, but there's so many funny comedy bits. The side characters in this film were actually impressively funny, but also good. They were a good part of the story, and I gave this 4.5 stars on Letterboxd, and I had a blast watching it. It's an incredible film.
What made you choose that to watch it?
Casey picked it.
Oh my, Casey!
I don't know
what's going on over there.
It. She loves watching these old movies, and she just kind of said it, and I'm like, "You want to watch this?" And we did. So, yeah, it was great.
I think I I was gonna say I think I cut it out of our Last Action Hero. How did he make that so fast? A chat, Photoshop of Danny.
Death.
That is, your forehead size is a little bit unsettling.
No, it's about right.
Yeah, that is where your hairline starts.
The hairline is like at the nape of your neck in that photo.
Yeah.
I was going to say, I think I cut it out of our Last Action Hero episode, but there is that homage to the Seventh Seal in The Last Action Hero. So what did you hearken back to that movie watching
I thought about it right away when I saw death. 'Cause that's oddly enough, the Photoshop is like the first image of the movie. And so that's exactly what I thought of was death walking around with Arnold and the kid in Last Action Hero. So yeah, it was amazing to think about that.
Max von Sydow also was a stud in Minority Report. Remember that when he was in that movie? Tom Cruise?
I only remember him from Force Awakens.
And then that scene towards the end where he talks to Tom's wife and he's like, why don't you come to the cottage? Come to the cottage. It's my Max von Sydow.
Sorry.
Nailed it.
That was a good von Sydow.
Go on.
I'm impressed. I watched that in the Criterion, and while I was there, I came across a movie called The Hot Rock.
Whoa.
And I watched it because it's a heist movie with Robert Redford, and it was actually a lot of fun. I gave it 3.5 stars. It's about
death sentence.
Yeah, I mean Rob Redford's character is like a serial like burglar heist man that's hired for these gigs, and he gets he gets out of prison in the very beginning of the film and gets hired for like one last gig, and it just is like it's funny. It's like a funny, fun heist movie that Robert Redford does an amazing job in. And I feel like no one talks about this film. It's sitting in the Criterion, and I had a lot of fun watching it. It's really good.
What's his hair look like in that movie? A lot of rumors
Flawless.
of him wearing a wig in his old age.
Nah, he's not old in this film. This film is from, let me check, 1972.
Oh,
Peter Yates.
pre-wig.
What's going on with you and Robert Redford? You've been sneaking in a lot of Redford movies this year, and I've noticed.
I must have.
Yeah.
I love Robert. I mean, it's hard to not love Robert Redford. I mean, do you disagree?
He's a good-looking man.
No, I'm
great
just
actor.
I came out of my relationship with Gene Hackman last week, and I'm just wondering if like you're in the same place. with
I
Robert
probably
Redford.
am. There's something about that man. He's a vision, amazing actor. He really, honestly, every time I watch him, he reminds me of Brad Pitt. Like,
oh yeah,
like it's like what Brad Pitt is becoming. Like he's this older actor of like when you watch like what's that Quentin Tarantino movie?
Once Upon a Time.
Yes, Brad in that reminded me of Robert Redford a lot. So I don't know. I really like Robert Redford. He's great. I wish he wasn't in the MCU.
Have you seen Spy Game with Robert Redford and Brad Pitt?
Yeah. But it's been forever since I've seen that. I need to watch it again now that you brought it up. So that was about it. And then I gave the old college try to Black Widow and stopped watching about halfway in, and it's absolutely garbage. I don't know how anyone's reviews have yet to mention how absolutely horrible Florence Pugh's Russian accent is.
At Marcy is typing in chat. I think her phone she just cracked the screen of her phone. She's typing so fast.
It's visually, it's terrible. I could not get over how bad this movie is.
Florence Pugh is in it. I like Florence Pugh, but she's in one of those spaces where she's like untouchable right now. And if anyone comes out and says something
Russian
negative
accent
about Florence Pugh, that person is probably going to get shadow banned and maybe canceled. So you better be careful.
She may be the Timothy Chalamet.
That's a good comparison, to be honest. Wait until the backlash. Savvy says cancel Danny time. Well, we're going to be looking for a new third host probably on this show, and preferably someone with some artistic talent, I think, after this episode. Because we're going to be in trouble.
Marvel does it again.
Pardo, what about you? What did you watch?
I was able to get to one movie that's been on my radar for a long time. Back to Bong Joon-ho, I watched Memories of Murder, which came out in 2003. One of his, so it's an older flick of his, almost 20 years now. So many people have watched this. A lot of love for this movie.
A lot of love.
The thing that he does with the comedy in his movies is really something else. I feel like no one really can do what he does. Like most of his movies are drama, Parasite and Okja has like very serious content. But and this movie, of course, it's about a serial killer and detectives trying to find that serial killer, and some gruesome stuff in this movie. But it's also very funny, and I can't really think of a director that really nails humor in a movie like these kind of movies the way that he does. So it was great. I gave it 3 stars.
3 stars. Wow.
Really funny. Yeah, I had a great time.
Is it like dark humor?
I mean, they're chasing a murderer.
No. Yeah, it's not really dark humor. It's just it's very subtle.
Art in chat,
the humor.
quote, 3 stars is great. I think the scale has been changed slightly based on Proto's comments here.
Slim producer. 3 stars is good. So it was a good movie. I had a lot of fun watching it. I know. There's a lot of love for this movie, but I felt like tonally it was in some parts it kind of rubbed me the wrong way. I don't know. It didn't totally stick the landing for me all the way through. And depending, people might love how it wrapped up. I didn't really care for it. I felt a little confused with some of the resolution. So yeah, that I wasn't blown up. My socks were still on my feet at the end of the movie.
Firmly planted. First Black Widow and now Memories of Murder. I'm not sure if anyone was expecting this back-to-back job in this episode. Just a reminder around the corner.
Mine should not be shocking.
The Human Condition, Part 1, is our main topic this episode, just around the corner. Everyone get ready. If you were shocked by Black Widow and Memories of Murder ratings, you ain't seen nothing yet.
Stay awake.
I will say I'm in the middle of a movie right now that I wish I hadn't started in the evening after Apex because it's fantastic. And I noticed that the two of you both gave it very high stars. And so
what is it? Tell me. Just us.
Just mouth it.
So Les Samurai.
Oh, okay.
So I was still in the Criterion after watching The Hot Rock or whatever. And I saw this and I'm like, man, I did this little poster for Letterboxd with it. And I've been really wanting to watch it. And I clicked on your reviews and I'm like, dang, these guys loved it. So I'm like halfway through it and it's very good.
Yeah. Anything else you watch, Proto? You want to talk about?
Oh, I just want to mention.
Uh-oh.
I finished Adventure Time.
God bless
and then
America.
I watched the limited series on HBO Max, Distant Lands. IYKYK. Is it the greatest? That's an open question, but because I'm asking it, I think you know the answer.
Every time that we had this show on loop all the time in our house, every time that final episode comes on, instant waterworks. It's just perfect. Perfect stuff. Love it. If you haven't watched Adventure Time, start the journey. It's worth it. I'm looking forward to Danny rating Les Samurai on Letterboxd, and every week we give away a free year of Letterboxd Pro to friends that share the show on social media, spread the word about the show. People are wondering, how do I help out 70mm? Tell your friends about the show. And this week's winner for a free year of Letterboxd Pro, get yourself access to stats, find out where movies are streaming so you can plan your week ahead. 1980s Fanboy on Twitter. You just want a free year of Letterboxd Pro. Congrats.
Nice.
Congrats.
And if you want to support Letterboxd at any time, maybe you didn't win the free year of Letterboxd Pro, you can upgrade to Letterboxd Pro or patron status. Get that fancy little backdrop behind your reviews and your page. You can do so at 20% off at 70mmpod.com. There's a fancy link you can use right there.
I would like to know, can I just ask?
Uh-oh.
Yeah. There's a movie on your list you didn't give stars to.
Oh, no.
But just between us, I would like to know.
Yeah.
I would like to know how many stars would you give Master and Commander? Because I saw you watch that.
baby.
Can we just get a star rating
just
for
to
Russell
elaborate
Crowe?
a little bit more on my comments last week, I'm grateful and humbled to be the co-host of the Letterboxd show this season. Our dear friends at Letterboxd. We interview people about their top 4 fave movies. So I didn't feel it was right for me to rate movies that I'm doing for that show. And Master and Commander is our next guest in his top 4. And I think I will rate movies looking back. I think I rated Strictly Ballroom 5 stars. If it's 5 stars, I'll probably give it a rating.
Oh, no.
So this is probably 4.5 stars, Master and Commander.
Whoa.
Yeah.
My gosh.
Yeah, I was
sensing that from your review.
It was very
It smelled
good.
like it.
It was good. I recommend if you're able, seek that out and watch it because Russell's hair is in prime form in this movie. It's like
The wig.
Redford level lush.
Wow.
It's good. Also, Viz, the Vision is in it. That actor,
Who?
Viz. What's that guy's name?
Paul Bettany.
Paul Bettany is in it. He plays the doctor in that movie. He's like best friends with Russell Crowe. I loved it. Seek it out.
Nah.
Does that scratch your itch, Proto? That secret rating that I won't reveal in Letterboxd?
That does it. Thank you.
Should we get into the big show here? The human
Let's do it.
condition.
We can keep delaying it if you want.
It's time. Let me go back to last week. I said I wanted to feel something. You know, I think we're all pretty aware that we're lucky enough to have a good percentage of our audience checks out these movies that we pick for the movies. And I was looking back at our last few weeks, months, and it was looking extra white. And I was like, I think we got to branch out a little bit here. Let's watch something else, something we don't usually watch. And The Human Condition popped up on my list. Let's go pinkies out. You know, check this movie out. 9 hours. The OG trilogy. The thing is 9 hours long. But part one is 3.5 hours long. So let's just start with that on the Criterion app and see how it feels.
It's the trilogy that inspired George Lucas.
Who would Alec Guinness play in this movie, you think?
Oh, God.
Alec Guinness, the master of disguise himself. Pardo, can you take us through Human Condition No Greater Love, part 1?
Kaji, a young, somber idealist, is commissioned by his employer to be a labor chief at a Japanese mine whose workforce is composed of Chinese prisoners. Desperate to treat the prisoners humanely, Kaji battles against the accepted practices of brutality that the Japanese deliver to their prisoners. He stands alone for their rights and fair treatment. But he is criticized and hated by his peers for his sympathies, while also being hated by the prisoners for failing to end the suffering that they have come to expect. When the military officer responsible for the prisoners seeks to punish an escape attempt, Kaji's words and actions will be put to the ultimate test. Suffering will come, but Kaji must choose who will endure it. No greater love.
Proto does it again. On a roll. You know what? I didn't realize when I chose this movie, I actually went in pretty blind to the plot of this and even the cast. But the lead, Kaji, is Tetsuya Nakarai. He played the dude with the gun in Yojimbo. The squirrely dude that had that pistol.
Wow.
I had no
Yeah.
idea. Because I was sitting down watching this and I was like, wait a minute, who is this guy? And also, he plays the lead in a movie that Torin, who has chosen for his camp counselor pick, that'll be a Patreon exclusive, he plays the lead in Harakiri, which I also had no idea. I thought it was a different actor completely. And yes, Mackenzie says he's also in Seven Samurai. So he's in these like huge movies as well. So this guy, this is like the Robert De Niro right now, the 60s.
De Niro. I like it.
Now, I think off the bat, none of us really knew anything about this movie ahead of time, right? Like you'd never heard about this movie growing up. This is out of our wheelhouse, right, Danny?
Completely out of my wheelhouse. And even coming into this podcast and diving in more and more to movies, it still never really came up until our village, until Torin brought it up. So it really was never on my radar. And then to say that it's 9 hours, it was never going to be on my radar. But knowing that it's broken up into 3 films makes it a lot more accessible.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I had known nothing of this. I might have seen it on like a greatest list at some point, but well, maybe not. Well, does it? I don't even know. Does it have a list, like a single listing on Letterboxd?
It used
I don't know
to,
if
but I
does.
looked earlier and I couldn't find the collected version of it. So I'm not sure if it's still there.
Yeah, and that that's another reason. But yeah, and just even reading anything about this, I remember when it was brought up in the Discord, and just 3 movies, 9 hours. But then it wasn't until this week that I saw that each one is broken up into 2 parts.
Mm-hmm.
So that makes it a little bit easier to watch. I like that when movies like these older movies that are really long have intermissions like right in the middle.
Yeah.
It makes it easier.
Yeah, and I compared this to Seven Samurai because you can be kind of like a movie fan, movie lover like we are, and watch movies and you're like, of Seven Samurai. You're like, oh yeah, that's on everyone's list. I haven't seen it yet. I'll get to it. But Human Condition, I'm like, what the F is this? 9 hours? What? Get out of here. I mean, is there any American equivalent to a 9-hour like journey like this? Like Lord of the Rings? Maybe? I mean, this is also based on a book.
This is based on one book, so I don't know if there's anything like this in American cinema.
Mm-hmm. 9 hours.
The only thing I can think of is there's, Gettysburg is like 4 hours, and Gettysburg did have a sequel, Gods and Generals, that was 4 hours that I saw in theaters, and there was an intermission at like the 2-hour mark. So that's the only thing I can think of that's even close to this.
God, the vibe in that theater, seeing Gods and Generals. Is everyone in there over 60 at that point? Holy cow. First note in my list here, obviously we'll probably talk about the length at a certain point, but the photography in this movie, holy moly, the setting of the mines, the outdoors, the night shots, everything in this movie I thought just looked absolutely dynamite. Like the cinematography is out of sight. Danny, what did you think?
Yeah, I mean, you could probably go frame by frame of some of these scenes and you could print them out. I mean, they're just something you'd hang on a wall. And there's actually really some, not only are like long wide shots of, especially the beginning. I mean, the snow scene is absolutely gorgeous. I mean, the two of them having their lovers, not really a quarrel, but just trying to figure out their next step in life. But that snow shot, the marching of the soldiers, the dark blacks in that scene, it looks absolutely incredible. And then there are moments where I just thought about it. It's so ridiculous, but there's the scene towards the end when I'm jumping way ahead, but I don't know why I keep thinking about it, where he's trying to call off the executions, and he's on the phone in the office by himself, and he hangs up the phone and the camera just sits for like maybe 5 extra seconds on that phone on the desk. And I'm just like, damn, that looks good. It is just, they're just really smart, long shots of really well produced, well set up sets in this film. And it's beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. There's some beautiful shots, especially of the outdoors. One of my favorite shots was when the train comes to deliver the prisoners. Yeah. And this might be the biggest train I've ever seen. This train looked like it was 2 stories tall, and it was huge. I mean, the engine of that train was just amazing. I wish there was like more of that, but it's like close to the tracks and it's coming. And I felt like there's a lot of shots where like the camera is like lower to the ground, and it kind of just created like an interesting perspective, especially when something's moving towards the camera, like the train was. So like those scenes of just like, this wide open landscape, was really cool. And then there's the some of this, there isn't a ton, but there's some moments inside the mine that were really cool.
Yeah.
And then also when I think they called it the pit, where there was, the prisoners walking in line, and you would see a trail of prisoners going one way up, and then in the back, like much further back, there'd be a trail going the other way. And it was just
Insane.
like very beautiful the way that it was like set up and just the movement that was going on.
There was like two other shots, but it's of the shots of the actual like power plant, where it's just like
God.
the coils.
Yes.
And the coils in the
It was
rain.
like porno.
I mean,
seeing that room, it was unbelievable.
and the hum of it. I mean, I don't know what about it, but man, it really got me. I'm
It's
like,
the most
that's-
attractive electrical room in the history of film. I don't know what is going on in that room, but I was like licking my lips. I was like, yeah, put the rest of the movie in this room, for God's sake. Torrin says this has the same cinematographer as Harakiri, so we might be in for a treat.
Good to know
for that movie.
That's awesome. I don't have a huge list, oddly enough, for the scale of this film, but I wanted to talk about Kaji himself. Not so, I mean, the character and the actor, because there is, I mean, he carries this whole, I mean, I haven't seen part 2 and 3, but obviously he carries this entire story kind of on his back. And I think Tatsuya, I don't know how to say his real name, I apologize, but he's just incredible in this film. He conveys like the scale of emotion like brilliantly throughout this entire film. And another one of my notes, like kind of referring to him, is this film is exhausting watching his story. And I'm not really talking about the length, just following this man who is trying to change the system of like the way that humans are being treated, and to watch him go from almost succeeding to failing. Like, I got exhausted watching his journey, and it's just the first part of the story. But I just feel like he's a brilliant actor. I loved almost every time he was on the screen.
I didn't really care for the character of Kaji too much. I don't know.
Let it out.
I feel like my thoughts aren't like fully formed about this, but I don't think I was totally vibing with this character and how he was written, if he was like totally believable. And it's really hard to, I think, talk about it or know. Like, to me, he just seemed, he's put in this movie as being like having high ideals, but then also seeming to be like really naive.
Extremely naive.
Yeah,
but
super.
but it doesn't seem to make sense that he would be this naive if this is like what he's grown up in, and like this is like his culture. So I felt like there was like a little like disconnect there for me, where it seemed like he was this way only in service of the story rather than like it being realistic.
For me, there's a bit of maybe just not understanding. So I didn't understand when after they talk about his thesis and his leftist ideals, and they give him the position being in charge of the labor at this other smaller mine. I did understand why he just wasn't in charge. Like, I don't know what he was actually sent there for. It felt like everyone was like, he just still was like this grunt, still reporting everybody. I don't know why they said it. He'd be in charge of labor when he didn't seem like he was at all.
Yeah, to Proto's point, they really focus on obviously his humanist background, which is a word that I feel like I haven't heard in maybe 20 years. Or like, do people just not even use that phrasing in mainstream culture anymore? Proto, do you hear that phrase or like the terminology anymore?
Not really. I mean, only if someone's really talking about philosophy, I feel like, not in like daily life or like, how you're living.
Yeah. So I actually had to Google what a humanist belief even was. Full disclosure, my bravery right now.
Thank you.
Humanist beliefs stress the potential value and goodness of human beings, emphasize common human needs, and seek solely rational ways of solving human problems. So I watched this twice. Another disclosure. Thank you very much.
Excuse me.
And the second viewing, I started to view this from a, like, probably in a bad way, but like an American lens. I was like, if they made this in this era in America, this would be Jimmy Stewart working against, you know, maybe like some corrupt military officials. And when you have the Jimmy Stewart version of this character, he's just a nice guy. You know, he's trying to do good. They don't really back the humanist tendencies with the character as probably as much as this movie. So I tried to view it from like, okay, he's just kind of like a good guy who thinks if he does good things the right way, it's just going to work out. So in that respect, I can kind of see where he's naive. You know, he just like thinks the power of positivity are really going to help the situation in the war. And that obviously was not the case. And without any of us knowing what happens in the next two movies, so hopefully if anyone has seen them, maybe don't drop anything. Oh, it gets worse. It gets worse. But I am interested to see how this goes on for him because he tries his hardest. It sort of works, but it obviously backfires and it just gets real bad for him in this movie. And to Proto's comments about him being naive, it was kind of a tough pill to swallow because at some point you want to slap him around and be like, gosh, you wake the F up, bro. You're in a war and all these people are corrupt. And this military guy that's going to behead everybody, like, this is real, dude. Like, you need to splash some water on your face right now.
Yeah, the amount of times like his eyes are bugging out of his head, like in complete shock. It's like, dude, this is like the 20th time we've been down this road.
Yeah.
It's like, why are you shocked right now?
Yeah, my first viewing, I kind of was like, God, another escape? Like, how'd you wake up? But on the second viewing, it felt more slow, drawn out, like he's trying to work with the prisoners and something just keeps popping up and that's like kind of stifling his plan. So next on my list is the character of Chen, who is this young kid who is kind of tricked into opening things up for potential escapes. Like there's some kind of scheme where if you allow these prisoners to escape, some of these cronies that are working the camps get money. So he gets tricked into doing this. He thinks he's doing the right thing by freeing them, but he's really just a pawn in this entire scheme. I felt so bad for Chen in this movie that I started to like feel sick every time he was on screen and getting tricked by the women or the woman who was leading the, I don't know what they would call that, a commune that were just there to serve as the men, and the dude in charge, and Chen's death. Are you kidding me? When he leaps into the electrified fence and there's no audio. Holy shit. Unreal.
The funniest part of the movie. Probably.
What did you think of Chen in this movie, Proto?
Oh yeah. His character is tough because he's trying to do right by his countrymen. You know, he's Chinese, but he's in a position where he's, he's considered, kind of like a turncoat because he's working with the Japanese. But at the same time, he's trying to do his best to help his people. But then he's seeing this opportunity where he really is just getting totally outplayed by the woman. I forget what her name is, who's like the leader of the prostitutes. And yeah, he gets involved. And then before you know it, he's just in too deep, where then he has no way out, where they have him trapped now, where, he's damned if he does and damned if he doesn't. And you just see him that he's he's stuck in a corner and he knows that there's no way out for him. And that was really like when he's going back and forth of like, do I turn the power off? Do I not turn the power off? Do I go like help Kaji, who's been so good to me, or do I try to help my people? And just knowing that whatever's going to happen to him, is going to suck. And it's kind of a nice foreshadowing of, Kaji's, decision at the end of the movie.
I love the lack of audio when they're getting electrocuted in that fence. I thought it was, sounds depressing to say, but I thought it was stylistically, it was a brilliant choice in the movie.
Yeah, it keeps it jarring for sure. And I expected, it's so weird because there was a moment where, at least where you can turn and you just are waiting for the hammer to fall on Chin. Like he wasn't going to survive this film or to the end of whatever story because he was only being used by everybody. Even it felt like even Kaji, after he hit him, there was just a change of like he couldn't trust anybody, but he was still being used by everybody, and it was interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I also found it interesting the length of this film and the amount of side characters that are in this film. I could never keep them straight because I felt like they were in and out so fast, and none of them were really fleshed out for me to understand each character. Like the only one that I feel like I got to know the most was his partner, Okishima, that he worked with at his camp the most. But then I kept not under, like it just, the amount of time in this film when people have screen time without actual kind of fleshed out stories, I couldn't keep up with everybody.
Yeah, it's funny because you would think 3.5 hours would be enough time for you to be like, okay, I remember this character from earlier.
Right.
But I felt the same way on my first viewing, to the point where I was like, I think I might need to watch this again. And that's like mainly the reason why I did watch it again, because I felt like I missed too much in a 3.5 hour movie where you could probably still cut out maybe 45 minutes or more and not lose the central crux of the movie.
Yeah, I mean, I was just thinking about, it does feel like a movie that it's a lot to swallow, and I feel like I don't have like fully formed thoughts about this movie. Like there's still things that I'm like ruminating on. I just finished it, the last hour last night. And yeah, it's a movie that you kind of want to, sit with and think about, and maybe just be able to watch again to kind of try to absorb and almost, there's a lot in terms of just, like philosophical questions in this movie that in order to, I think, kind of come to any resolution in your own head, you really have to spend time thinking about. And I think watching it, so like as you're watching it, it's like you're trying to keep up with the characters, the plot, but then also the subtext. And it's a lot to do over the course of the runtime to try to absorb all of that at once. So I feel the same way, and I can see why, you would watch it twice.
Corin in chat says it's only the first third of a really well-known book. Can you imagine watching all 9 hours of this and trying to get a grasp on it? I feel like I would be worse off from sitting and watching 9 hours of this. I would have to sit with it for like a month to try to piece together what I kind of sat through and experienced almost. I don't know.
I don't think I could have done 9 hours straight for my first viewing. I don't think it would have, after how I feel about this first film, I would have probably been a little bit, not as frustrated, but I feel like I would write it off and never want to revisit it if I watched it 1 9 hour stretch. I'd be like, no, this isn't for me.
Yeah, there were the philosophical lines I did enjoy. There are a few quotes I wrote down. Man can be as strong as he wants. He only needs to find the cause of his unhappiness. When his wife pretty much asked him to promise to share your joys and sorrows with me, I thought their interactions were really good.
Yeah.
And also Chen saying, after he got slapped, he's like, he's Japanese, I'm Chinese. It's that easy. Porter, what else is on your list for human condition?
Another theme that I really enjoyed in this movie was the pretty much the struggle between words and actions. And there was like one of the main Chinese prisoners, I think his name was Ko, who had the love affair with the other woman, and just how like he was never trusting of Kaji at any point, even when, Kaji was simply, very sincere, and you could see that he was different in doing things, all that he could for them, and he never trusted them because he says, you Japanese are all the same, things always go one way, they always go south at some point. But then it seemed like, that was really just like a vicious cycle, because in some ways it seemed like they always go south because the prisoners also would never trust them. And of course, this is like a new scenario, having Kaji, this guy who is actually, willing to follow through on his words, but the prisoners don't know that. So they continue to try to escape and get away. where you like the whole time you're thinking of like, guys, just trust Kaji.
Yeah.
Like, if you just wait it out, you might be okay here. If he can, because if he does well, like they got the increased performance, the 20%. Kaji, he's getting meddled here. Like they're going to implement more of this. Like you're going to do well, but like they are so conditioned to know, like to not trust the Japanese that they're just, they're going to take the knowledge that they have in the past. And past experiences and just do what they think they need to do. And that's so heartbreaking because I feel like you can even apply that to so many things of, just people who kind of fall into the same, traps and can't really get a leg up in life because they keep believing the wrong things. So I feel like this is kind of like a really universal theme that you can apply to so many things. And it's so well played out here, but also so heartbreaking.
Mm.
Average rating on from our patrons, you can join at 70mmpod.com, 4.5 stars right now. Grant, what a picture. What's more important, the ore or the workers? Throwbridge. I think Throwbridge gave it 5 stars. Danny, what else is on your list?
Around the time when it's just before, this is my favorite part of the movie. There was just before the execution of the 5 prisoners. Is it 5 or 7? I can't remember. But he has a moment where he kind of talks to the lead Chinese prisoner through the barbed wire, and he has this kind of amazing discussion where they're talking about his choices he can make and how he asks the questions like, what would you do? And they're talking about what I would do on the other side of the barbed wire and stuff like that. There was, I'll read it. There's some great responses. He says, you'll either be revealed as a murderer wearing the mask of humanism or one worthy of a beautiful name as man. And he's like, I know that. And he says, you have less faith in man than you try to believe. Regardless of how you feel, true men will always find kindred spirits. I was like, man, this conversation was like next level. I mean, there's a lot of good moments in this film, but I felt like this is the one that I actually connected the most with. The two of them having a conversation, the Japanese man, the Chinese man, both on other sides of barbed wire, but both kind of trapped in their own scenarios of trying to do the right decision. So it was an amazing scene. And then it goes into the executions, which is another crazy part of this film. But that the shots of them behind the barbed wire, it was a really cool juxtaposition because it just was framing both of them just kind of in the same position, even one being a free man and one not.
The execution scene, how about that prick of a soldier?
Oh my gosh.
God, that guy was so good in his role though.
Yeah, he was so, I mean, he played it great. You just wanted to strangle the life out of him. I mean, every scene, not even just that scene. Anytime he was on screen, I hated that man so much.
Yeah.
It just made me so mad. But yeah.
Yeah,
he's rough.
After the quote escape attempt, they need to make an example and they going to behead the men that allegedly tried to escape. They didn't really escape. It was made up. And he forces Kaji to witness the execution. I started to get like, the Patience of Job story, like stories you would hear growing up. I just kept thinking of Job with Kaji in this movie. Like, how much can one man take? He didn't really have, I guess, faith per se. He was a humanist, I guess. But also I started to get hardcore Terrence Malick. What was the movie I just watched? I wrote it to my list here. A Hidden Life. I started to get crazy A Hidden Life vibes also in this movie. Not so much from the wide lens stuff, but just the sticking to your moral ground and what you thought was right. But at this point in the movie, the execution scene was where you start to really get some crazy stuff with his eye twitching, during the stress. I think it was this scene. But I started to feel like really bummed, and I'm guessing this plays into the next movie, and it did at the end, but he did not save Ko, the one guy who was, in love and wanted to marry one of the prostitutes. I just felt so bad that he didn't act like right then to save him. I felt like annoyed. I was like, come on, man, do it like a minute sooner and save his life.
Yeah, I think it was kind of, thinking about it now, I think it's kind of cool because, Kaji had a choice to make in that moment, or maybe he didn't think he had a choice to make. Maybe he thought like it was already decided, but once they start to be executed, like his, the inner turmoil within him just kind of like bubbled out, and he had no choice but to do what he could in that moment to try to save them. It sucks to see like, there's 7 guys there and 3 of them get beheaded and he saves the 4, but it's like, what about the other 3? Right. If he acted sooner, but it's almost like he needed to see what, like the reality of this to be able to make that choice and to stand up for them and knowing what it would lead to.
And I feel like, we're not in that position. You're like making the decision like, okay, I'm ready to die to save the remaining people. Like, obviously it's a decision most of us will probably never have to make. So it's not that simple, but Danny, what did you think about the execution stuff?
I mean, I don't enjoy, not that people enjoy watching these scenes. It just, this is a part of like war film that it's so hard to watch because it's real. It happened. I mean, this isn't just like good guys versus bad guys. This is based in racism and a lot more kind of deeper problems. But I hated watching this scene. But for something about the prisoners chanting afterwards, kind of, it just felt. I mean, I was like, just attack them. Like I wanted them, like it's like 5 guys with guns. You guys can do this, just like. But then I'm like, why do I want them to murder more people? Like it's such a real like turning of the stomach kind of situation. And I that's the chanting part really was great. It was hard. It was just it's such a hard thing to watch.
The whole movie. I mean, from this point on, during my rewatch, I was like, oh man, I'm starting to get towards the execution scene. I still had like 90 minutes left. Like there, like this portion of the movie is very long. Torin says that's exactly the response Kobayashi wanted to create in a Japanese audience. So at this point, he gets kidnapped and tortured, and at the end of the movie, he's reunited with his wife. I think they're married, yeah, and finds out that he did not get the exemption. You're going to war now. Like it's about to get real worse for you. And then the movie ends, or this portion of the 9-hour journey ends. And that is the human condition. Anything else on your list, Proto, that we missed?
I think one of the things that it kind of rubbed me the wrong way is, I like the themes that are talked about in this, but I also felt like some of it is a little too on the nose for me. And this is more of like personal preference. But like the movie basically starts with Kaji and his boss, and his boss is like, Kaji, you're that humanist ideal guy, right? You read all those Western books, huh? And the amount of times that like the like human, like it's spelled out so clearly. Like there's the one line when I forget his name again. But like it was kind of like the other manager who was at like Kaji's level, who's sent away, and like as he's on the truck, he says, "I'm boarding this rundown truck, but you're trying to catch the train of humanism before it's too late." It's like, dude, that is bad. That's a bad line. And there's so many lines like that where like it's just not needed, and that always rubs me the wrong way. Where things like are said when they just don't need to be, where it feels like the writer is kind of like hitting you over the head. Like, do you get it? Do you get it? Let me just say it in the movie rather than, watching the movie and picking these things up. So I felt like there was a little bit too much of that for me.
I'd be curious to know, when I read manga and we translated manga into English, you really had to work with a right translator that understood the work. So I'd be curious what the process was in choosing the subtitles. There was a few comments in chat about the translation. I agree. Some of the stuff was a little too on the nose. Like I would have wanted like a better translation in some of those conversations. And I wonder what they would come out as if they were done today. Danny, anything else? on your list?
No, we kind of went through we kind of talked about everything. There was another quote I had written down from Okishima he's speaking to Kaji, and he says, "I'm boarding this rundown truck, but you're trying to catch the train of humanism before it's too late. You seem willing to pay the fare no matter how high." And I thought that was a good line. At least translated line, I guess.
What's your
that's about it.
What's your final thoughts and rating for No Greater Love Part 1?
Final thoughts are I found myself enjoying as quote unquote, not like loving the story, but I did think the story was really well done to follow. I don't know if I enjoyed every performance in this. I don't know. It just felt like some things fell a little bit flat. I think the cinematography is gorgeous. I love the actor that played Kaji, and it was compelling enough for me to want to continue to watch the rest of Kaji's story and the human condition. I don't know when I will,
after
but
Ninja
I
3.
will. Not after Ninja 3. So for me, I think I'm going to hover around right at like 3.5 stars for this right now. And maybe it needs a second watch. And I think that's with a lot of older subtitled movies. That's how I felt with Seven Samurai. It takes a little bit more to settle in for me with these older
Also,
movies.
let's be real here. It's 2021. We watch movies at home. How many times on an English speaking movie do we pull our phones out? Be honest with each other right now. You're listening on your podcast app. How many times do you pull your phone out and watch a movie at home? One false move, you're out of the game in a subtitle movie. You're out of the game. Okay.
Speaking from experience.
And for me, I'm such a visual person. Like I get caught up in things that I shouldn't get caught up in. So I'm looking, obviously, like I said, I'm looking at a telephone on a desk and I'm in love with it. So it's like, if I miss something, then I miss a beat of this story or something. So there is a bit of, being an American watching these old Japanese films that has its downfall. I know it's important. And I think this is a gorgeous film, and I would love to watch it again, but I want to continue the story before I do that, I think.
Pardo, your final thoughts.
My final thoughts, as we're talking about this movie together as friends, I'm liking it more. I think, as we said before, there's a lot of meat on the bone here. So it deserves the talk. I am fascinated with this period of history. I'm a big fan of Hardcore History, which is another podcast where Dan Carlin covers history. I think I've talked about this before. And right now he's going through a series called Supernova in the East, where it's about Japanese imperialism, basically between like the mid 19th century through World War II, and why the Japanese, how they got to this point, and their ambitions and goals, and what set them apart from other nations to accomplish these things. And also really like the horrific stuff they did to the Chinese and other countries, where they really wanted to colonize places, but they really had no mercy with any other people group. And it's really, it was some of the, I can't remember that. Like, I'm not going to try to, say, give any facts now, but I really recommend that series of this is fascinating to you. And just seeing that. He has a great line. He says over and over again. He said the Japanese are just human, but more so, or something like that. It's such a great line. And a really great series. So I'm fascinated by this period, and I'm compelled to continue on because, I'm just thinking about it. There's a great line by the military officer when he drops Kaji off in the field randomly. That was such a weird thing where he just drops him off and he's like, "See you later." But he says wherever you go, I'll be there. So it felt like a tell that they're going to run into each other again. But then there's also the thought that this Chinese prisoner Wang escaped when Kaji thought he was dead. So I have a feeling he'll show up again. So I'm interested just to see where this story goes and like what happens with these characters. But I'm kind of where like Danny is. I wasn't totally vibing with this from the beginning. I think some of the things, just weren't working for me. And as I said, I'm liking it the more we talk about it. But I think this initial viewing, I'll give it 3 stars.
Bring us home, Slim.
Boy, The Human Condition. Gorgeous. I bought the Blu-ray. I have all 3 discs waiting for me at my desk. And to be perfectly frank, on my first viewing, I was like, what am I missing here? I was also probably hovering around 3.5 stars. So I did want to watch it again because I wanted to just give it a fair shake, which seems strange. I gave it 3.5 hours. That should be a fair shake. I wanted to watch it again just because, maybe I did miss some things. So I did have a better experience on second viewing. Any kind of confusion I had in the first viewing was gone for the second viewing. So I'm at 4 stars for the second viewing. It does, like, I don't like when people say, watch it, like, not when, I love it when Proto says it, but when people tell you, hey, you should watch that movie again, you'll get more out of it. I should be able to get enough out of it in the first viewing. But for me, I definitely got more out of it the second viewing. So if anyone is, lucky enough to join us on this journey, by all means, watch it, devote your full attention to it. I think you'll enjoy it. So I'm glad we did it because I am definitely continuing on the journey. I'm popping in disc 2 this weekend. And with any luck, I'll be popping in disc 3 this weekend too.
Wow. Yeah, like it definitely feels like an epic. I mean, there's so much that happens in this first one. To think that you have 6 more hours of this story is pretty cool. So yeah, I don't know when, but I want to watch it too.
Casey said while watching, she wanted to see an aerial map of this area, the town, because it felt so. I was so baffled by how it was laid out, where the camps were, where the mines were, where this town was with the prostitutes in the village. And it just seemed like I'm just going to walk into town real quick. But outside we have these massive mines it just felt like, I needed to see a layout of this landscape.
We have to get into some letters this week. You can write us a letter at 70mmpod.com. We have links on there. And we have to talk about, maybe we talk about next week's movie right off the bat, since we're talking about Human Condition.
Holy
next
crap.
week, we needed a palate cleanser. It's related to the theme for next month. We've never done this before. We're going to announce the next month, this episode early. That's how big this month is.
Art, can you sit down, please?
I need Art. Where's Bonnie? I need Bonnie to get a wet towel put on Art's forehead right now. Next week, we lost someone special in cinema last week. Dick Donner. We need a palate cleanser from The Human Condition, streaming on HBO Max. Superman the Motion Picture is our next movie next week.
It's time.
I just got chills.
It's time. Drowning Pinocchio has been posted in chat. So we'll get into the theme for next week in just a little bit, but we have some letters to get to. Subject line, Lawrence of Arabia. Also, I meant to say I did see some similarities with Lawrence of Arabia's storyline with this one, about kind of difficulty connecting with the main lead and their journey. Hi guys, greetings from Australia. A great episode on Lawrence, one of my very favorite movies. I remember first seeing it in 1963 with my family. My father was a student of history and certainly was able to give me a good background on Lawrence, which aided my understanding as I was only 10 years old at the time. This guy is outflexing H. No one has ever outflexed H before in the history of this show. But Bernard, you win the award. We'll see if we can get you something special, maybe some Letterboxd Pro. Lawrence made me a lifetime devotee of David Lean. Some of his older films you try and see are In Which We Serve, Hobson's Choice, Great Expectations, Oliver Twist. In parentheses, some may view it today as anti-Semitic in the depiction of Fagin, The Happy Breed. I have seen Lawrence 30 to 40 times over the years and never tire of its grandeur. The restoration that was overseen by Robert Harris is superb and is the basis for the 4K. In my view, Lawrence is the perfect combination of visuals, acting, directing, writing, and music. In my humble opinion, this is a 5-star movie. My view has never changed in the many years since I first saw it. I am so happy that you discovered it. Thank you for the very informative podcast. And that comes from Bernard.
Thank you, Bernard.
Thank you very much, Bernard.
30 to 40 times. Wow. Oh, man.
That's one Human Condition viewing. Gosh, so many movies still to check out from David Lean. Where will we find the time when we have 2 more discs to watch? Oh, Grant, don't give me that eye roll emoji. We're all having fun here, Grant. I think Grant might have even left us a BM now that I think about it. We have one more letter to get to before we get to Grant.
Delete it.
It's a long VM too, Grant. I'm not gonna call anybody out here past our 90-second limit, FYI. Subject line, thank you. This comes from Diamond King. Hey guys, it's your old pal Diamond. I just want to send a thank you to Slim, Danny, and Pro for creating such an engaging, smart, and funny podcast. It opens me up to more films that I either haven't seen before or heard of, which has put in binge mode listening to all the episodes. Continue doing great things with this podcast. I'm a fan for life. Take care, Diamond. Mackenzie, I was talking about the 9-hour journey, okay? Mackenzie, I will ban you tonight.
When you're watching movies.
What'd you say, Fredo?
Time is relative when watching movies.
Time is relative.
It's not the literal runtime we're talking about.
Everyone has a moment in their Patreon journey where we cover your favorite movie. And it goes well or it doesn't go well. Okay? We're all there.
Thank you, Mike. The literal fun time. That's exactly what I was trying to say.
All right, let's get to our VM for this episode. Let me pull up our VM machine. Shrek 2, you cowards. What would it take for Danny to do Shrek 2 on this podcast?
Oh. I'm not doing it on this podcast.
300 patrons by the end of next week. Daniel will do Shrek 2.
You have 10 minutes.
The Rise of Skywalker, Caleb has made an appearance in chat. I feel like we were talking about doing The Rise of Skywalker. I can't remember where we were talking about that.
I don't know if I have it in
the
me
energy.
For that.
All right, let's get to this, VM. Enough of trash.
Hey everyone, it's Grant.
Hey Grant.
Gonna try not to rant this time about anything. We'll see how it goes. I just wanted to share how much I enjoyed this week's film, The Human Condition, Part 1, No Greater Love. It's very dialogue driven. I didn't know how, as I was watching it, I didn't know how I felt about it, but after I finished both parts to it, I can't stop thinking about this movie. Every day I keep thinking about it. And there's only a handful of like really intense moments, you know, most of the movie is very dialogue driven, but those handful of moments are so shocking and compelling. Like the prisoners getting off the train, the prisoners running into the fence, the execution scene, you know, all those moments are just so intense. And the specifically the moment I keep thinking about that really just keeps turning my heart and my stomach. I keep thinking about when the prisoners who weren't trying to escape, but were imprisoned and were accused of trying to escape and were set to be executed the night before the execution, Kaji is in his house and he is just literally writhing on the floor in pain over what to do, to save them, to not save them. And it was just such a powerful moment. I keep thinking about this moment. And I just feel such sadness for this man who knows what he should do, but he can't do it because there's just all these other circumstances surrounding him that he can't just do whatever he wants. He has a wife to worry about. He has a future to worry about with his wife. And it's just such a powerful moment. And the whole movie is just beautiful. And I thought I needed to watch all 3 parts of The Human Condition before I could give any of them like a rating, you know, but like I can't keep thinking about this movie. I can't stop thinking about the first part to the human condition. And so I'm saying it right here, right now for all of you. It is a 5-banger film all by itself.
Wow.
And I cannot wait to finish this one, guys. It's going to be fantastic. All right. Much love. Peace and love. Peace and love.
Peace and
I'll
love.
see you guys later.
Love
Goodbye.
the Ringo comparison.
Love you, Grant.
Thank you, Grant, so much for your journey with us this week. 5-banger. A lot of 5-bangers
There
from
it
our
is.
community this week for
Yeah,
the human
baby.
condition.
Only the hosts bring it down.
I think our most recent, or maybe one of our earliest one, where some of us disagreed with the average, was In the Mood for Love. Remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We almost got burned in the stake for that.
Whose favorite movie is that? That's
Everybody's.
Is that
That's
Ben?
my brother-in-law, Ben.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You did it for his
Oh yeah, Sean.
That was my
engagement
gift to
for
him.
wedding.
That was my gift.
Sean as well.
Average 3-star rating.
That
from
was.
this.
I think that was Sean. I think that was Sean's first week in Discord too, and I think we did like In the Mood for Love.
Oh,
He was so
yeah.
excited for it. Listen, 3 stars is good.
It
Or
is good.
great, depending on which host you're listening to.
Not me.
Is it time to talk about next month? Next week is Superman, and August, the summertime is here. Summertime is here, and it's
Mhm.
everyone goes to theaters to see these big, bombastic blockbusters.
Mm-hmm.
Last summer, we went and did some of our favorite blockbusters. Jaws. We hit the beach with producer at large Dale, Esquire, and Independence Day, another blockbuster.
Man.
It's time to go back.
Mm-hmm.
Summer Blockbusters Part 2, August. And we're only containing the movies to the 21st century.
My gosh.
2001 and on. That's the theme for the month of August. I'm telling you, we were looking at some letterbox lists.
There's some bangers. Absolute bangers.
Get ready to bang.
I'm not saying, I'm just going to start naming this movie. Spider-Man 2 is on that list.
Is this happening?
Inglorious Bastards is on that list.
There's so many.
Dark Knight, Batman movie is on that list. These are just some of the movies that are on that list. There's a lot of classics in there.
Mm,
So it's the summertime. We need to celebrate the summer heat
it's time.
with some more blockbusters. Preto, what's your vibe going into August?
I mean, I already know what I'm going to pick.
Me too.
I already know.
Yes.
I already know. I'm ready. I can't wait.
Yes.
I'm so ready for August.
Oh, baby.
Man. Superman leading into this month. Poof,
Yes.
it's going to be quite a month. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Has anyone checked in on Art after we announced Superman? I haven't seen him. Can we get a pulse check on Art?
I'm texting Bonnie.
Please.
Someone text.
So
Bonnie.
that's August. It's jam-packed. We had a lot of fun last summer, so let's do it again. For August, get ready. And then we have some other stuff cooked up for our
Cooking.
patrons coming real soon. So take us out, Proto. Any closing thoughts for Human Condition wrapping up? Freedom Month is officially over. As we lead into the month of August, it's so jam-packed, we have to start in July.
This movie, part 1, No Greater Love, I gave it 3 stars, but I'm glad I watched it. And, you might say like, oh, he gave it 3 stars. That's not like that hot, but I think people should watch this movie. To take a chance on a 9-hour trilogy, I think is worth it. To take chances, I'm going to watch the rest of them. I think it's worth it. And like we're saying, this conversation, there's a lot to unpack and dig into, and a lot of good conversations to have. So take a chance. Take a chance on me.
Take it.
See everybody next week for Superman. 70mm is a tape deck production featuring original artwork provided by Danny Haas, spiritual guidance, and V'ger, the robot who loves movies, created by Predalexis. Producer Emeritus, Dale_A. Prints and other merch are available on 70mmpod.com. This episode was mixed, edited, and produced by me, Slim. You can support our Patreon for access to the VHS Village Discord to talk movies with new friends, access to exclusive episodes, discounts on merch, and a physical membership card mailed to you. To check out other Tape Deck podcasts, find the link in the episode notes. And if you'd like to support our friends at Letterboxd and upgrade to pro or patron status, you can do so with a 20% off discount using the links at 70mmpod.com. Goodbye.
This is a Tape Deck podcast.